Quick question. Do you know you exist? Obviously, yes. Now, here's the harder one. How do you know your dog doesn't? Not feel, not love, not react? No. As in, is there something it is like to be your dog, sitting in that room, aware that it is a thing that exists in a world? In a zoo in Atlanta, a gorilla named Ivan spent 27 years alone in a glass box inside a shopping mall. One day, a researcher held up a mirror. Ivan stared at it for a long time. Then he reached up and touched a mark on his own face. Not the reflection, his own face. Ivan knew he was looking at himself. The question nobody could answer was, did he know he existed? And if he did, what was that like? Most people answer this question without thinking about it. Of course, animals don't know they exist. They're animals. They eat, sleep, react, survive. Consciousness is a human thing. Self-awareness is a human thing. The rich interior life of wondering who you are and why you're here. That's ours. That's what we've always told ourselves. And for a long time, science agreed. But then researchers started actually testing it, and what they found changed everything. It started with a mirror. In 1970, psychologist Gordon Gallup Jr. developed what became known as the mirror test. The idea was simple. Anesthetize an animal, put a colored mark on its face somewhere it can't feel and can't normally see. Let it wake up. Then put it in front of a mirror. If the animal touches the mark on its own face, not the reflection, it means something profound. It means the animal understands that the thing in the mirror is itself. It has a model of its own body. It knows it exists as a distinct physical thing in the world. Most animals fail completely. Dogs ignore the reflection or bark at it. Cats walk behind the mirror looking for the other cat. Monkeys spend weeks trying to find the stranger in the glass. But some animals don't fail. Chimpanzees pass. Bonobos pass. Orangutans pass. Dolphins pass. They were tested in tanks with mirrors installed on the walls, and they spent hours examining their own bodies, inspecting angles they'd never seen before, seemingly fascinated by themselves. Elephants pass. A famous experiment in 2006 at the Bronx Zoo placed a mirror the size of a wall in front of 3 Asian elephants. One of them, named Happy, repeatedly touched a white X painted on her forehead. Not the mirror, her own head. Happy knew she was happy. And then there's the one that surprised everyone the most. Magpies. A bird. A small black and white bird with a brain the size of a walnut. Researchers placed a yellow sticker under the beak of several magpies, a spot only visible in a mirror. The magpies scratched at the sticker on their own bodies. They recognized themselves, which raises an uncomfortable question. If a bird with a walnut-sized brain can recognize itself in a mirror, what exactly are we measuring? Here's where it gets complicated, because the mirror test only measures one very specific type of self-awareness, visual self-recognition, the ability to match a reflection to a body, and it turns out that might be one of the narrowest possible ways to measure whether something knows it exists. Think about it from the animal's perspective. Dogs have a sense of smell roughly 100,000 times more powerful than yours. Researchers have found that dogs recognize their own scent as distinctly different from other dogs. They spend significantly more time investigating scent samples that have been altered from their own than unaltered ones. They know what they smell like. They know their smell belongs to them. They're passing a version of the mirror test, just not one that uses mirrors. Octopuses have been observed doing something that has no clean scientific explanation. They play. Not practice hunting, not rehearsal behavior. Play. Interacting with objects in ways that serve no survival function, apparently for the experience of it. An octopus in a lab was documented repeatedly releasing a pill bottle into a current and catching it. Over and over. For no reason. Just because. What do you call an animal that does something for the experience of doing it? And then there's the Cambridge Declaration on Consciousness. In 2012, a group of the world's leading neuroscientists gathered at the University of Cambridge. They reviewed decades of research on animal brains, animal behavior, and the neurological structures associated with conscious experience in humans. Then they signed a formal document. The declaration concluded that non-human animals, mammals, birds, and even octopuses possess the neurological structures and neurochemical processes that generate consciousness in humans. They signed it in front of Stephen Hawking. Then almost nobody talked about it. But what it means if you actually sit with it is enormous. It means consciousness is not a human invention. It means that right now, somewhere on this planet, there are millions of creatures experiencing something, not reacting, not processing, experiencing, having a moment, being aware in some form that they exist. The question science is still arguing about is what that experience is actually like. And this is where it gets genuinely strange. Because there's a philosopher named Thomas Nagel who wrote a paper in 1974 that became one of the most discussed philosophy papers ever written. It was called What Is It Like to Be a Bat? His argument was simple and devastating. A bat navigates the world through echolocation. It sends out sound waves and builds a picture of reality from the echoes that return. That is its primary experience of existing. Not sight, not smell. Sound bouncing back from the world. Nagel argued that no matter how much you study a bat, no matter how thoroughly you understand its biology and neuroscience, you will never be able to imagine what it is actually like to be a bat. The subjective experience, the feeling of existing as a creature whose reality is made of returning echoes, is fundamentally inaccessible to a human mind. And if that's true for bats, it's true for every animal. Your dog is not experiencing a simpler version of your life. It is experiencing something so different from your life that you literally cannot imagine it. A world built primarily from scent, where the past and present exist simultaneously in the air around you, where every human you've ever met has a smell signature as distinct and recognizable as a face. That's not a lesser consciousness. That might be a richer one. So back to Ivan, the gorilla in the glass box who reached up and touched his own face in the mirror. We'll never know what was happening inside his mind in that moment. We don't have the tools to reach it. We can't ask him and get an answer we'd understand. But here's what we do know. He was alone for 27 years, and when he finally saw himself, really saw himself, recognized himself, knew that the face in the mirror was his face, he reached out and touched it. Not with aggression, not with confusion, gently, like someone who had been waiting a long time to meet themselves. Maybe that tells us everything. Maybe that tells us nothing. But it doesn't feel like nothing.